Once you have your first job is when you really realize, oh wow, you're building your own dream or you're building someone else's. That's when it clicked, is like, I want to steer my own ship. When a client is happy with what they see, it's kind of like they see themselves in a new light that they've never seen before. It sort of fueled me to just keep doing that. I was like, wait, I can actually do something and get paid for something that I enjoy. That's when I started kind of just toying with the idea of like, what would it look like to own a photography business?
How would you feel when people start to become way better than you?
I think it's a dangerous place to be when you think that you are the best at something. And nobody likes having their weaknesses pointed out. You can look at your weaknesses. Like, why do you hate that so much? It's probably because you need to grow in that area.
What are we waiting for?
You just have to take the initiative, take the risk. And maybe it'll fail, or maybe it'll go super well. But by waiting, you're taking a risk too.
At the cost of thinking about the future all the time, you're also missing what's in front of you, in the present.
I mean, it's fair, because you don't want to be blindsided by always living in the future.
Yeah.
Nor do you want to live in the past.
When we look at our past, we also find the answers of where we got to be in the present. It also informs the future that we want to forge. What does that legacy look like?
I want to photograph things as they are in their natural beauty, the way that God would see them. Having the good work is one thing. Making meaningful work is something that takes years of development. It's more about who you are as a person and how you can interact with those people before you ever take the picture.
All right, guys. Hello. As you know, it is another episode with Henrik Cord. Hi, guys. I know it's been a while, and I hope you're enjoying the episodes that I've been putting out. Please like and subscribe. Social links are in whatever. Okay, you already know the deal. But in this episode, we have a wonderful and upcoming photographer, and his name is
Nathan Saczyinski.
Yes, Nathan. Why don't you tell us who you are and why you're here on this earth with this gift that you have bestowed in you? And yes, I'm going to be dramatizing every little bit of this conversation. Go on.
Well, first of all, thank you. I want to just extend that to you. I'm very appreciative that you would have me on this podcast. It means a lot. So thank you for having me.
Of course, dude. Of course. Guys, remember, find his socials and give him a lot of support and love because, dude, his work is amazing. If you're looking for someone to capture your products or portraits or, landscape, he's the guy to go to, and we will get his contact in the description below. But go on.
Thank you for saying it so wonderfully. I consider myself a commercial photographer. In that sense, you're not discriminating on what kinds of things you shoot. It's more about the end use for it. So if you're going to make money off photos, contact me.
Actually, why don't you drop your social links so people can actually find you?
Yeah. Instagram is just Nathan_Saczyinski or nascophoto.com.
When I saw your name Nasco, I was like, damn, that sounds really cool. It's like NASCAR. But when I did the research, it turns out that it was like an acronym for, I think, Nathan and your last name, Adam. And then Saczynski. I don't know if I got the middle name wrong.
You did.
I did. Okay, guys.
It's okay. So it's Nathan Andrew Saczynski.
Okay, it's close
Creative
enough.
Organization.
It's close enough. All right, it's close enough. I have hearing aids.
It's okay.
I have hearing aids. That's the only excuse I will use. But anyway, so why are you here, Mr. Saczynski?
I am here because you invited me.
And why are you here to tell your story as a creative? What is your mission on this earth?
Man, that's a deep question to start off with.
I will only ask deep questions for like a wonderful conversations.
I
That's
mean,
why
I'm
we're
here
here.
for it.
Huh?
I'm here for it.
So go ahead. Tell us what you want to do with your life as a photographer.
Man, I guess if I had to give you like my macro reason behind
Yes, dude.
why I do everything,
Spill it.
it's going to sound so simple that it's stupid,
Okay.
but it's to make people happy.
Okay.
That's it.
Why?
This is kind of what started everything. The
Okay.
first time, and I'm sure you remember the first time you shot a video, was your client impressed with it? Were they happy? Were they excited?
Yes.
Did they say, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I love it.
Yes.
So the first time I delivered photos and heard that, it sort of fueled me to just keep doing that. And that's still a feeling that I get when a client is happy with what they see. It's kind of like they see themselves in a new light that they've never seen before.
And that feeling never seems to go away. even when the work starts to get overloaded and all of that, because like you want to do so much to make a client happy, and it's almost like trying to find a balance between making sure that the work that you do is something that you enjoy, while at the same time maintaining your reputation as a wonderful photographer that provides high quality products to the clients. But it's hard to do that when you go up. Make sure you protect your inner child. But before you did photography, though, where were you at that time? Before you even considered that?
Man, before I did photography, I guess you could say like my start into any sort of creative career was through Destiny Worship Center.
Do tell.
I would love to.
Go ahead.
So around 2012 is when my family first started going to Destiny. But by 2014, so I was in 6th grade, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's when I had started volunteering just in the kids ministry. Started off as a small group leader, didn't even care about the tech side. Funnily enough,
Yeah.
but there was a need for it. So the pastor reached out to me and asked if I would consider helping,
Okay.
which I agreed to it. I said, sure thing. And I sort of got hooked by that point, just from a technical side. And then the first time I remember, there was this little 24-channel fader board that controlled all
Yeah.
of the stage lights in there.
Okay.
Like all 10 stage lights, nothing crazy at all.
Okay.
And there was something so incredible about how you could shape a room. You could move people, express sentiments just with lighting. And I think that's when I really got hooked by it.
With the lighting. I think that's the Destiny. Wait, was that Steve Vaglis?
So Steve Agalis, yeah, he's the head pastor there.
Wait, was there not a pastor? Because I remember going there every now and then with my friends, but I never really just took the time to understand the team or who was there. I just know there were a pastor. I don't know if he's the. What do you mean by like he's the only pastor there, or are there multiple?
Well, he's the founding pastor. So Steve, you've got the Vagalis family.
Okay.
So Steve and Jackie, that's husband and wife. They founded Destiny. And then Victor and Steven are the sons. So under Victor was Josh, and he was the kids pastor at the time.
Hi guys, if you're watching this, remember Nathan, you shaped him to who he is today with your opportunity to help him get to know how the lighting works. But with the light though, when you were doing the fading, it's like, did you feel like you had the experience to back that up, or were you just learning everything on the go?
Oh, it was all on the go. There was no training.
Really?
So I think that's kind of what started like the whole teaching myself, learning on the fly, learning in the field, so to speak.
Before 6th grade, did you have any aspirations that you had set in stone before a photographer? Like, for example, I thought I wanted to be an architect because of Legos.
Oh, of course.
But then there's math. No,
Well, I
thank you.
think every boy goes through that. We all played with Legos and wanted to be an architect when we were growing up.
But you know what's worse? When you step on a Lego and it hurts. But you know what I mean? Did you have a predetermined career before you discovered photography?
Yeah. So in elementary school, I was determined that I would be like a boat captain.
Whoa!
And then that faded away real quick. And then it became architecture once I
Okay.
got obsessed with Legos.
Okay.
And then after that, I guess you could say just the tech field in general, once I started doing live production.
Okay. Wait, boat captain?
It's such a blip on the radar. No pun intended.
Wait, was this by any chance inspired by Forrest Gump?
No.
I mean, he became a boat captain and he got crawfish and shrimp. That's why I wanted to ask.
I've actually never seen that movie. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. That's strike one, everyone. After going into regional, before that, did your parents? Because from what I've learned from the research, guys, when I do research, I'm a stalker. I look for every information. But I suddenly could not find a social security number. But we'll see. But I looked into your family, and they're all like in the creative. They have their own business in the sense that it inspired you to make your decision to go after photography. But did they, when you were being raised throughout your childhood, did they ever foster some type of creative ambition? Like they push you to. They encourage you to do something like that, or did they want you to, make sure you get a stable job that will, give you a financial security, you're stable, and you're okay. Did they ever do that to you?
So kind of no to both, actually.
Really?
Which is surprising. So the creative ambition,
Yeah.
not really. If anything, what they fostered in me was wanting to be entrepreneurial, owning my own business.
Okay.
And then what was your second question?
Did they ever encourage you to choose a path where it's like a
I see.
guaranteed
Gotcha.
stable
So like
income?
the typical
Yes.
go to college,
Yes.
get a job. Okay.
Yeah.
No. So even after that, they would still, because that kind of goes in line with starting a business.
Right.
You don't necessarily need a bachelor's or master's degree to do that.
Okay.
Depending on what field you're in. But in my case, you didn't. And my mom would always talk about like, oh, I got my bachelor's in marketing, but I
Yeah.
still don't use it. And she does all of the business side for my
Yeah.
dad's art business.
Because when we grow up, we always look to our parents for guidance, and when whatever behaviors that they exhibit, we would typically imitate that. So when you heard your mom say, "Yeah, I went to school and got my degrees in marketing, but I never used it," how did that inform you going forward into your education in high school and college?
I mean, it kind of left me questioning, like, well, if not that, then what? Like, what would that even look like if I were to just go start a business? How do you form a business plan and
Okay.
make it profitable?
Right. And then from there, did you order anything that you just like realize, okay, college, nah, I don't need it.
So I went off to college
Oh,
very briefly. Well, I was at Northwest and got an associate's, but I don't even count that.
okay.
When I got to FSU about a year ago,
Yeah.
I was actually in their architecture program. So the Lego kid came back alive briefly.
Yeah.
But I quickly realized it's not the path that I wanted to go down. So
Okay.
unfortunately, it did take getting there to realize that. But even within like the first day of being there, I knew that it's not where I wanted to be. And I know I'm kind of jumping way ahead into that
Yeah.
because there's the whole lead up to how I ended up getting there.
Right.
Haven't even talked about how I got into photography yet. But with architecture, I realized just looking over like the course syllabus, there were maybe 2 classes out of the entire program
Yeah.
that I cared about.
When I'm assuming it's the actual designing part.
It
but-
was, right.
Yeah,
It was
'cause
the
it-
design courses.
And I would imagine, what kind of buildings did you want to build? If you had to put yourself back in that shoes again, what buildings did you actually want to design?
What kind of buildings? I think hotels would be cool.
And what
Like
kind of
a luxury hotel.
what about, are there any particular architecture style, like Gothic or modern or Victorian?
So this is going to sound like really weird, but I've always liked brutalism.
How what?
Brutalism?
Whoa. Wait, how come? That's a different, vastly. That's gonna be hard to fit in the modern society when it comes to the actual. Don't worry, guys. We're gonna be talking about photography. We're just discovering who he is. Okay. Anyways, go on. Why brutalism? Out of everything, that's a concept that's not normally seen. If you can walk around.
You do see it sometimes, depending on where you go. Like even just Pensacola has some brutalist architecture.
Where?
Downtown.
They remind me of Nashville.
Maybe you need to see a picture of brutalism.
Hold on, I'm gonna do that right now. Wait, brutalism, isn't that like everything is simple or no? That's minimalism. What am I?
Brutalism looks almost like kind of scary.
That looks like sci-fi.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Okay, are you telling me this is what you're talking about, guys? Look, this is what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's it.
What building are we talking about in Pensacola?
I'll show you sometime. Beside the point.
That's besides the point. But no, so, and then now we dive back into his journey leading up to the regional director. By the way, at the age, let me look at this. Yeah, at a young age, it was like it was a significant achievement. How did that feel for you after just getting all that time experience and having a whole entire team promote you to lead the whole entire thing? How did that make you feel? Because that's a big achievement.
Well, it's super empowering.
Okay.
Because I didn't get hired until the day I turned 16. That's when I got a phone call with an offer.
Whoa.
But before that, I was basically operating in the same capacity, just volunteer or stipend.
With that volunteer opportunity, did you feel like that after discovering with the lighting, when did you start transferring it to photography?
So that happened like the first time I picked up a camera, that was sophomore year of high school. And that was just an elective course. Okay. But it was more of like a history of photography. It wasn't that practical.
What do you mean it wasn't practical? Like, it didn't feel like the concepts reached out to you?
So they weren't really teaching how to take a good photograph. They were teaching history of photography. So starting with film, working through, say, like Ansel Adams' famous black and white photos.
Even though you're not around, we love your artwork.
It's gorgeous.
So you were still looking through the history. You took that as elective. Where were you at that time after taking or during that course?
So the interest of photography, the first time I had seen it painted in like an attractive way, like kind of trendy, like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. Like, this is a cool thing to do. Yeah. Not just what your grandpa does. But I was actually on YouTube, of course, and I stumbled across a video by Willem Verbeek.
Oh, what?
His name is Willem Verbeek.
Okay.
He's Belgian, so he has a complicated last name.
Yeah, I was...
But I'm Polish, so I have a complicated last name,
okay.
too. But anyway, he had a video about Super 8 film, and I clicked on it, and then, of course, that same night watched like 90% of all of his other videos, and I still keep up with his content to this day. So it's been kind of cool to see how he's grown, too. But it was just so interesting because he shoots on all film cameras.
Oh, okay.
Anything from 35 millimeter or medium format.
And that's why you started shooting with a Canon AE-1 with Kodak Gold.
Portrait 160.
I don't shoot a lot with film. After quickly realizing how expensive it was.
Especially medium format.
Oh, God. I don't want to think about the cost, dude. Okay, because like
it's like $3 to $4 per image is what it averages.
But it adds up. It adds up so much. And like, what did you try to do? Like developing it by yourself, or did you have to send it off to a lab?
I considered it. I learned everything about it.
Okay.
But once I realized how expensive it would be, on top of everything else, I just send it off.
The medium format with the film photography, that's a different type of workflow. And you don't normally have like a margin of error where you can make a bit of mistakes. Whereas with the film photography, it's like you don't even know what settings are, if they're actually accurate to capture what you're seeing. What did you like about that format versus digital?
Well, if anything, when you're shooting film, the entire process just slows way down.
Okay.
So you have to focus more on your composition.
Okay.
And then making sure, because it's not like digital where you can just keep rapid fire, you know.
Yeah, you got to.
Exactly. But you're limited by the ISO too, the sensitivity of the film.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more limitations, but there's also like sort of a freedom that comes when you have confines like that. Because some of my favorite work has been with film. And I don't think it's the film itself. Like, while it can capture light interestingly and uniquely from digital, it's not going to equal the best photo you've ever seen.
Okay. We're going to go into a debate here. With film and digital, which one do you think that fits your style? Because in all of your work that we've seen, and I'm talking about the viewers because they're going to look at your work too. All of the work that we've seen, it's very clean and it's very, it has the commercial look. Yes. But with the film, were there any elements that you liked that did not get transferred to digital, that it got lost in the process, if that makes sense? Like grain, you have to digitally post it. You have to do it in post. And you have to certain way it captures light. Digital is too clean. So
with my digital work, especially with the coloring, I try to emulate what a professional film stock would capture. So if I'm shooting with Kodak Portrait 400 or 800, there's a very clean look to it that almost doesn't even look like film.
Okay.
Kodak Gold looks like film, but with 160, 400, and 800 Portrait film stocks, they're professional. They're made to be what would be used in like a professional setting. Right. So that's kind of what I'm going after with my digital edits. I still want it to look natural, true to life.
Yeah.
I don't like edits that look just unearthly
Okay.
because I don't think that's going to stand the test of time. Like, I want photos that look good today to look good 20 years from now. Like, we all saw the Instagram Visco trend with, like, the moody brown edits, just super unearthly looking thing. It looks cool at
Right.
first sight, but you can, like, scroll back a few years on people's feeds and be like, I can tell that was a trend. So I don't want my feed to look like that.
There has been a huge resurgence in the nostalgic element that comes with film.
Yes.
And you see people wanting to buy older cameras like I do have the Fujifilm X10. And people are now wanting to emulate the 2000s, early 2000s look, even early in the 90s. My question is with digital, they both art can live, they're both timeless in its own way. But
Film and digital art?
Yeah, film and digital. What is it about the digital that you think would outlast the film?
Just the ease of using it. You don't have to pay to get it developed. It's
Okay.
not as wasteful
Okay.
because the developing process, I mean, it is wasteful. It's not very go green. And that's the ugly side nobody ever talks about.
Okay, I did not even think about that.
But also, then you have to pay to get them scanned. You have to store your negatives. So, like I said, it's a much longer process working with film. So I think film emulation, like Fujifilm has done a great job.
Yes.
Like with the X100 series, that is truly emulating basically like a Leica M6.
What if we blend both of the worlds? Let's say we emulate film, the elements of film, but in digital we do that in post. Now, you did say the digital photos will be able to outlive against film, but what if we're still trying to do the exact same thing that we see in film, but for digital? We go into post and destroy it. Do you ever find yourself, okay, let's turn down the sharpness, let's add more grain? It's like we're taking a perfectly clean photo and we're destroying it.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing about film is it's like perfectly imperfect. If you're shooting with the right stock and it's a high quality lens.
Okay.
You can get near digital quality, but there's always an aspect to film that I think can't be emulated digitally. And I think it comes down, it's like a scientific process, the way that light is captured chemically with film.
Yeah.
The amount of dynamic range that you can get in film is pretty crazy. Like even shooting with portrait, I'm usually 2 to 3 stops overexposed just because I know that I want the shadow detail, but it still keeps your highlights intact. Whereas digital, it's such a clinical look on a digital sensor, you can't overexpose. You can retain some of it. Like if you're shooting bracketed, you can always blend those. But it's going to look so clinically perfect. I think that's part of why people are going back to the film look. Because you see like direct flash and blurry images coming back.
Yes.
And I think people are just nostalgic.
Well, I would like to ask, what's your take on maybe the digital could still be good, but what if it's the lens that's in front of the camera that gives a clinical look? We use older, like there's a Helios 44-2. We use that and we put it, and when we shoot it behind the person, when we shoot in front of the person that's behind or in front of the trees, it gives that characteristic of a swirly look. What about that? What if it's the lens?
So that's part of it. But that's not all of it. Because one thing you see with film, like take Cine Still.
Yeah.
It has halations.
Oh, I love that
Which you can
one.
add artificially and resolve. But it's not always going to be the same.
So it's artificially film, but it's not really film.
Softwares are trying to emulate what only film can do.
So you
And same with your highlight roll-off.
right.
Like if I were to start talking about, oh, the tones look so good in film.
It's the highlights and the way the dynamic range that makes it. It's
So like people like to shoot with a ProMIS filter because they're trying to get the highlight roll-off that you see in film.
yeah. Well,
But you can usually tell like, okay, that was clearly shot digital.
yeah.
They were just trying to make it look like film.
Yeah. I wanted to circle back to the lighting. When you were going into the broadcast, what were some of the moments that you realized how different and how important it was to take lighting into consideration? Because you did mention
Right.
that broadcast is a different approach versus in a different scenario, like if you're shooting a short film. Go on.
Right. So like with a short film, which I'm not like a videographer. I'm not even pretending to be one.
Yet.
But I do know how to light a scene.
Okay.
Anyway, when you're lighting something for broadcast especially, You're no longer lighting just for artistic purposes.
Oh,
You're
no.
lighting for a specific type of camera
Right.
to see things in the most ideal way possible.
Right.
So in that case, that's the first time I realized, oh, there's different color temperatures.
Right.
Suddenly you have an LED wall behind a speaker that is a little bit cooler than daylight balance. But then you have incandescent house lighting that's at like 3200 Kelvin. But then you have accent lighting fixtures that are LED and they render so cold that it almost looks magenta. So when you have and then like you have some house fixtures that are a different type of bulb.
Yeah.
So it has a green cast to it. So when you have all these different temperatures, what do you do when it looks like crap on video?
Right.
So that's when I started realizing like, okay, I need to approach this entirely different because cameras can't see unlimited white balances.
Yeah.
You have to lock into one.
Okay.
So in that case, we're going to lock into, say, 4,000 Kelvin. So we're going to find a way to balance everything to get it as close to 4,000 as we can. So if our LED wall is 2 daylight, we need to color balance it to be warmer so that everything's true white looks pretty similar. The stage lights, if they're tungsten, we're putting a CTB filter on that. So color temperature blue, it's just going to cut out all of the warm frequency. And same goes for house lighting.
Oh my gosh.
Swap those to LED, so then you can go cooler with it. Remove color cast, which you can do that with a filter or with LEDs.
Okay, we just got a crash course on taking everything in consideration in stage lighting because now I wanted to know.
Well, that's just one aspect of it.
Oh, God.
That's just color. I didn't even get into different fixtures for different uses and angles and all that.
Have you ever been put in a challenging situation where, how did you even deal with, some lighting will change colors throughout the performance or anything like that? How do you account for, okay, you said, all right, we know that lighting is magenta. We know this lighting is going to be green. But how do you deal with the ones that are dynamic in terms of changing colors?
So they're changing colors live.
Yeah.
That's just something that you have to take into consideration. Do you want it to be an artistic element?
Yes.
Or is that like an essential fixture that cannot change? So like in our case, like you've heard of 3-point lighting.
Yes.
So you're going to have your key light, your kicker or a side light, and then your backlight.
Right.
So in our case, we were doing more of like 5-point lighting.
Oh, man.
Because when you're on stage, everything is much more dramatic. Your shadows are harsh, and you're trying to make it look natural. Plus your speaker's dynamic. They're running all around the stage. So then you add in the fact of, okay, we need consistency across a 30-foot wide stage. So going from like a Lico fixture, that's a spot. It's a very theatrical light. So then we swap to a Fresnel, which is just a wide pool of light, very soft. And then we even added diffusion on top of that just to get it as soft as we could. So with that 5-point, your key light, it's going to have 2 coming from the side. So it's minimizing shadow.
The shadow, especially down here at the face.
Exactly.
Okay.
Your side lights are coming in to reveal some detail on your side. And then your backlight separates it from the background. So those stay the same. Those are all at the same Kelvin, the same white balance. But then you have the more artistic fixtures. They're accents. They don't have to be the same color because you want contrast, even if that just means you have different colored fixtures in the background. It's not hitting your subject, so it's okay.
What's the process when it comes to managing the person's skin color? The way the light hits our skin is always going to be different no matter what with every other person. So how do you also factor that into them walking around the stage and then all of this accent lights, 5-point lighting? How do you take into account for that specific part?
So you're saying people with different complexions? Or...
Yeah, color, especially color. How do you take that into account with the lighting?
Well, honestly, the biggest thing we've run into is when people wear high contrast outfits.
Really?
Right. So say you have like a white person wearing just all black on stage. They look like a void with a floating head. So we try to like have them wear variety in color.
See, that's now the thing is like there are people who have certain personalities where it also shows how they express in their outfits. And have you ever been in a situation where you had to actually talk to them and how you want the lighting set up before they get on stage?
I didn't have to have that conversation.
Oh, dude,
That was just outside of my wheelhouse.
did you ever think about being a gaffer? Because all this knowledge.
I mean, that's kind of what I do.
Well, like I know you said you want to be a photographer, but that's gaffer is like strictly more into film production side. That's like someone that's responsible for that, but you're applying that in photography. Did you ever have you ever considered about taking, crossing the dark side as a Sith Lord of lighting? Have you ever considered that, or is that something you're planning on doing later down the road?
I think that's the extent at which I would get into the filmmaking world. So I don't want to be the person who's sitting at the editing bay all day.
Okay.
Like I want to be the person lighting the scenes. So the cinematographer, a DP, a gaffer.
Yeah.
The people who are helping to put the film together from a creative stance.
Okay.
I just don't want to be on the post-production side.
Well, congratulations.
And the same is true for photography.
True.
I like lighting scenes and working with a subject.
Well, now, in this case, you are now in front of the camera. You are the subject.
Yeah.
One of my favorite styles that I've seen, even in photography and videography film, is Rembrandt lighting. Freaking beautiful. Do you have a specific art style that you could see in paintings? Even because a lot of the way we see the world can still be traced back into, we're going back into your art history. I'm sorry if you didn't enjoy the class, but here we are. We're about to explore.
No, yeah, everything is just emulating art.
Huh?
Everything just emulates art. So the things that look good subconsciously, like there's a design principle behind it.
But that's, you know what, I'm glad you mentioned that, because you know the Fibonacci, or the swirly, I think it's the Fibonacci sequence. I didn't really pay attention to certain classes, but I know there's a swirly thing. When I saw that one and they started showing certain items in the world, it's literally, you can see it everywhere. And so with lighting, Rembrandt lighting just so happens to be the one that I'm attracted to the most.
Right.
Do you have a specific look that you love that can be found in art throughout art history?
Rembrandt, that's where you get the triangular
Yes.
shape. Yes, okay. I mean, yeah, I like that too. I wouldn't say that there's like this one specific style. The biggest rule of thumb that I have when I'm creating, because I don't want limitations per se,
Okay.
is just have it look true to life. I don't want something to look so unreal, so fake.
Why is that?
It doesn't, because there should always be like the human element to it.
Everybody has their own style, but with yours, you really love the naturalistic and true to life.
Right.
In comparison to these, why? What makes it so attracting?
I think it just goes back to like film. Because I want something, I'm not into trendy things.
Okay.
Oh, like what would be so great in the moment. Like I'm very long-sighted. I want to see, or I want to create something that when you see it in the future, you like it just as much as when you saw it the day it was created.
Can you recall a time in your childhood that you saw something that you can maybe have been able to recreate in your current artwork today?
Like a specific photograph that I saw that I want to recreate.
Photos, movies.
So the most, and I may get in trouble for saying that I watched this, but HBO's Euphoria series. I don't know if you've seen that.
Bro, oh my God. Oh my gosh.
The cinematography in that is pretty incredible.
It's not just crazy, it's godly. It's
Which, did you know they shot that on Ektachrome?
Oh yeah. I think it was season 2 or season 3. They switch.
Yeah, season 2.
Dude, the colors just pop. But
It's incredible.
But here's
it
the thing.
still looks real.
Okay, but here's the thing. I'm gonna actually counter argue with you with the part that you said you like artwork that are true to life and more natural. But in Euphoria though, some colors are so it's emphasized to a point where it's almost like you're looking at a theatrical, like a theater play.
Right.
Because how is that contrasting with what you want to see in your work versus what you like to see from Euphoria?
So in that case, I think you're not representing a person as much as you're representing a sentiment. So think like very simple, you're telling a scary story. You've got gross green lighting with an uplight like a flashlight.
Yeah.
That's not a natural look that you'd normally see in everyday
Yeah.
life, but in that specific instance, it works. because you're trying to get a certain feeling across. And I think in Euphoria, they do use that selectively, which I have a theatrical background.
Right.
Because in addition to Destiny, I was still working with Emerald Coast Theater Company.
Oh, okay.
So I did a lot of broadcast lighting, but I also did a lot of theatrical lighting too.
What was the part that you loved the most about Euphoria that made you just like, oh, I want to try that in my work?
So I actually did recreate this back at Studio 2215, right after it launched.
Okay.
This is Megan's little shout out moment. Congratulations.
We're having a flashback moment.
Yep. So back in November,
Okay.
this is when Justin hosted the Create and Elevate event.
Yes.
And on the first or second day, we had like different breakout times just to create.
Yeah.
So we had like 4 different photo sets going at once. And for the one that I created, I specifically had in mind, I want to recreate like a Euphoria scene.
Okay.
So as if you're taking a frame grab from the show, but it's just a photo.
Right.
It's composed a certain way, the outfits look away, and the lighting is a certain way. And I think I achieved it pretty well.
In your creative process, now that you mentioned that you take the photos, how do you actually gather inspirations? Because for some people, when they look at work, okay, I like this from this movie. Let me take a screenshot of that. I like this photo from somebody else. I want to take that. What is your creative process like?
So with commercial, you really do have to balance everything because on one hand, you're having to listen to what the client wants. You're listening to what the client needs, but you're also thinking like this has to reach such a broad audience. Like it can't be too weird. It can't be too out there. Like it has to look very clean, almost clinical,
Okay.
because that's just the usage for it. Now, for my own creative work,
Yes.
I'm usually going off of what I see in movies
Okay.
or TV shows. Or sometimes like I'll see something that one of the creators I follow does, and I'm like, I'm going to pull inspiration from that.
I want to know what your take is on is everything original?
No. Nothing new under the sun.
So then we're stealing art by inspiration. So how can we make ourselves stand out, especially with commercial? You know, there's a certain process that gets a certain look. How would you want to be able to push that to the next level? Because everything already is done in a certain way that gives a certain look. How would you like push the standard of what is considered the best, or the standard of commercial photography? How would you like to push that?
So are you asking like, how do you want to stand out as a creator?
Yes. And specifically in commercial, because you know there's some photos like, okay, here, Yeti. Lighting. Pretty.
Right.
How would you want to push beyond that limit of what is possible with commercial work?
Well, you've got like your typical, like take an e-commerce photo. So when you held that here,
Yes.
white backdrop, white 3-point lighting.
Yes.
It's basic. That's what you see on Amazon. No one can really stand out just based on that.
Okay.
So what you can do is change your talent that you have on set, the location in which it's shot, and then every other surrounding piece in that. So you have to think outside the box of how do you want this product to be portrayed? Because everything has a connotation attached to it. So you could show this being used by maybe like a high schooler playing sports. You could have dads that are like 40 years old using it. You could have moms putting Starbucks in it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter.
Okay.
There's a whole lot of different use cases for one of these. So I think that's how you can stand out, is just based on its surroundings.
That sounds like you're diving into you're mixing the world between commercial and lifestyle. How would you differentiate between the two though? Because
Well, lifestyle could be considered commercial. Because remember, commercial, that's just saying, will this be used to generate revenue?
okay. And then lifestyle is just to, because that can be also be used for revenue, because you can use that for magazines.
Right.
They need to look for, let's say they want to capture a family using Yeti. How would that be classified as commercial or lifestyle?
Is it going to be used for advertising?
It could be both for both.
So then, yeah, commercial, lifestyle, social media.
I'm not a photographer in this world, guys. I just want to let you all know that. So if I'm saying the wrong things, let me know in the comment. After growing up with your parents, you know, having all this business that they've been able to become successful with, and then add on to that the fact that your mom just told you, yeah, I didn't really get to use marketing. We still love you, Mom, just so you know. hearing all of this as you got older and you started to, want to pursue a business in photography, what did you learn? Because guys, as a creative, we're very terrible with business.
Oh yeah, of course.
Terrible.
And it's kind of draining to have to do the business side.
I know.
Like you almost want someone, you need a producer who just handles all the business stuff.
Do you have trouble with delegation by any chance? Or are you just like you can delegate easily?
I can delegate certain things.
Okay.
So like if it's the business side, sure, I'll delegate that all day. But when it comes to like a creative vision for something, I'm a little bit more hesitant, depending on what the setting is.
Okay.
For example, if this is my shoot, like if it's a passion project, I'm going to want to be the one who creates it.
It's your baby.
Right.
It's your baby.
But then if you go onto a certain, like take a commercial set
Okay.
for Yeti, you're working with a team of people.
Yeah.
And you're all trying to get the same goal accomplished. You have to be able to delegate and speak in terms that everyone understands. You're not the torture genius director anymore.
Do you want to be in that environment?
The one I just described?
Yeah, because that's like
Yeah, I can do both. You just have to go into it with the right mindset.
the most painful part about the business is like valuing yourself the right way.
Right.
Is that the hardest part, or there's something else that's much worse?
Imposter syndrome is number one for me.
Okay.
Number two is, valuation of work.
Well, 'cause
It's very hard to put a price on something that you're just passionate about.
man, but that's the thing. If you have somebody who's a producer and they can see your work from an objective standpoint, it's so much easier.
Right.
But since we're the creators, we can't look at it from an objective standpoint. We're just like, no. There's emotions attached to it. I love this. It's our baby. With imposter syndrome, what were the thoughts that go through your head? Does it feel like everything that you do, no matter how much people tell you that it's so good, what are some of the things that it makes it harder for you to believe that what they're saying is actually true?
Well, it's not even about like what other people say. It's more of like seeing how many great people are out there, how many talented people are out there, especially with social media. When you're constantly scrolling, you're like, oh my gosh, that looks incredible. Like mine will never look that good. Who am I to even be on here pretending like I'm a photographer? So it's comparison.
That's 8 million or 8 billion people out there. I'd like to think that our work still has some value, even if there's a sea of even more talented people out there. Just because they're at a different level doesn't mean you won't ever get there, though. They
True.
probably took a lot of time, especially pain, to get to where they are.
Well, a lot of failure too. And that's the part that nobody really likes to publicize.
When you see certain people that you look up to, do you feel like you will learn a lot more from their failures or from their success?
Well, they don't advertise their failures,
Oh, you
so it's hard to
should.
learn from it.
Okay.
So if anything, I'm looking at, okay, what does their style look like? Why do I like it?
Okay.
What's their process? What are they pulling inspiration from? What do they value?
Okay.
And then I'm sort of implementing that in my own work.
What are some of the failures that you had to come to throughout that process? Because we can implement what we like to see from somebody else, but then sometimes we find that that I don't know why this is working for them, but it's not working for me. If that makes sense. Were there any failures that you've come across throughout that process?
Well, I think, at least for me, a lot of that came down to gear-related things. I thought the answer to everything was, well, I need a specific piece of gear to do that.
Okay.
And to an extent, having the right gear does matter, but it's not the very utmost important thing either. Like, you could still shoot on a 5D Mark II and get incredible results out of it. You
That's
don't
true.
need the latest camera.
That is
At least
true.
for photography. Video is a little bit of a different piece. I wouldn't shoot on a 5D Mark II for videos.
Well, to be fair, that camera has been used in early 2000 movies. It was like at one point the best camera.
Yeah.
But,
well, I
like-
think it was the first DSLR that had 1080p,
Wait, what?
the 5D Mark II.
I did not know that. I
think it
never
is.
shot with Canon that what? Can you imagine 1080 being
The standard?
at that time?
Yeah. 2008-ish.
But 4K every time I look at it, 10. Okay, it's I didn't even know that one, but I just knew that that camera was used heavily in some movies. But I didn't know that specific feature because I never really bothered to look at it because it was just a photo camera. With the gear in question, as a person, I think it really comes down to the person though. Because with gear, yeah, sure, but it's not to say that the person behind the camera, even if they shoot on the phone, their work is still gonna be great. I think people are too hung up on the technicals though.
Yes.
For people that want to do what you do, where should their focus be at?
Oh, that's a good question. I would honestly say like learning design principles. If you understand like the principles of what makes a good image,
Yes.
so composition and lighting, I would say those are the most important two things.
You already came up with that. That you have the advantage of doing that.
Right. So like I actually started backwards. Most people start by getting the camera, having an auto mode, and then just figuring right.
Yeah.
Spray and pray, just shoot as much as you can. And then they're like, well, why does this look terrible? Whereas for me, like I started by learning professional lighting before I ever picked up a camera. So then when I did pick up the camera for the first time, I already kind of understood the principles of design. Then I just had to learn exposure triangle. And then about a year and a half in is when I started using off-camera flash. And then I've just kind of grown since then.
At that point, you started wanting to transform that into a business.
Right.
How was that experience like at the beginning? Not where you're at now, but at the beginning, because dude, we all know what it's like when we get our first LLC. Oh my god, mom and dad, I'm a business person now. Walk us through that moment when you got your LLC and then
I don't use an LLC.
What?
I don't use one.
Whoa.
I'm a sole proprietorship.
Walk us through your decision why you chose that one over not considering the LLC though.
Because I don't think that I need it yet. If anything, I would jump straight to an S corp if I started making like over $60,000 a year. But it's a tax decision.
It's a what?
It's a tax decision.
Okay. You want to read books on business? Well,
As long as you have contracts in place, you're fine.
Oh, do you not know how many people out there that don't do work without contracts, or that do work without contracts? That's insane.
You can get burned.
Yeah, you can get burned. Yeah, just don't ever work without contracts. Were there anything that you saw from your parents that when they were handling their business, what did you learn from them and that helped you become at least achieve some form of success?
So the biggest thing that I learned from them was actually just tracking expenses. Like I'm basically my own bookkeeper.
Okay.
So between that and then how to have an accountant do all your taxes so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Those were the two biggest things that I learned from them.
Sometimes when if parents do it right, they build this innate, for the lack of a better word, sense of knowing that we're worth something. Parents are gonna do that with their child, and when they do it right, they'll know that they're worth something. Now, when you combine that into business, did you have any trouble realizing that? Okay, I know that what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to offer to the world has some sort of value. How did you have any conflict with that, and actually realizing that business requires you to sell to people? How did you equate your value that you think you have in your work and convincing people to actually see that?
I'm terrible at sales.
All right, walk us through that.
I mean, that's it. Put very simply.
It's like
I hate the process of selling people on things, even if I fully believe in it.
Okay.
I think partially it's because I just love what I do so much that, oh my gosh, I wish I could get everyone things for free. But nothing in life is free.
Right.
So you have to charge. And that's something like even today I'm still hung up on. What is a fair assessment of what I'm offering? What is it worth? What are people willing to pay? Because we all have bills.
Exposure doesn't pay the bills.
That's true.
Likes and follows and shoutouts don't even pay the bills either.
They sure don't. Especially once you see how expensive gear is too.
Do you feel happy with the career that you're at? Because I know each and every one of us will always want to be more. where are you in this career?
I think I'm just ready for more. Like I want to learn as much as I can about the commercial photography field. Living around here, it's a pretty small area. It's just hospitality driven. So you don't really see many true professional creatives. So I feel like if I were to just immerse myself in a more creative environment, I think that's when I would start to flourish.
And that is why you do have that plan of going somewhere else.
I think it's a dangerous place to be when you think that you are the best at something.
Bro, that statement could not be any more true. Okay, we're gonna go into this segment of like, do you have that mentality of like the small town mentality? You want to get out,
Yes.
but then,
But there's a lot of people here who think that they're the best at anything, not even just photography. But you can look at it and objectively say it's just not great. No shame, but if I'm trying to become a great creative, then I need to go where I'm like pretty low on the totem pole so that I can start learning from people who are really great, the people that are landing the enormous gigs. And then once you can learn from them and see what they're doing right and what doesn't matter, I think that's when you can start to stand out. Because I'm a huge proponent of mentorship.
you remember the AJ Blair when the distill? Part of me was like, the dilemma with that one is knowing that there is more out there, but you're here. And the dilemma is like, it's hard enough as it is to go beyond what you're able to do at this moment. You're plateauing, and that's the biggest fear I've had.
Right.
And it sounds like that's the same thing you're going through.
Yes.
It's like, after, oh my gosh, dude. After the whole entire thing with AJ Blair, at what point what are we waiting for? Like, I know there's certain circumstances in our own lives. We can't really do it because we have the circumstances that we identify as something that might not make it possible. But there's also taking risk.
Well, I think the primal fear that every human shares is just fear of failure.
That's true.
And I think that's honestly the pinnacle thing that holds everyone back from doing anything. But if you want to get more specific, I think it's usually fiscally related. Because if we don't have income, you're not going to eat, and then you're going to die.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
Yeah.
I hate to make it like that simplistic, but that's usually the truth. A lot of our decisions are motivated by money. So if, for example, I know I'm trying to get out of here and go to a bigger city, the immediate rebuttals I have to that are money related. How can I afford that? What if I don't find a job in time? What if I fail? And then I'll just end up right back here. And it's also not to say that if I were to leave that I would never come back. It's more of a personal growth thing. So if I want to become better at what I do, I want to learn from people who are better than I am.
But that's hard here. Those certain type of people, because so I think growth cannot, we can take time to focus on ourselves and become better. But the missing half of that is actually getting mentored by somebody else that's better.
Right.
And
So then where do you find those mentors? Because they're not really here. Except for one that I was like a studio assistant with for 2 years.
Wouldn't that require sacrifice and a risk, knowing that? Because if you want, from what I've learned, is like, as we get better at what we do, we cannot just keep on taking every opportunity. We have to give up something at the same time. If we're staying here, what we're taking is the opportunity to be somewhat better, but we're still plateauing. That's what we're taking.
Right.
But what we're giving up is the amount of time that we could have given ourselves to become better.
Right.
How are you? How
So
do you
it's like a perceived safety thing. By staying here, anytime you say yes, you're saying no to a million other things, right?
Yeah.
So by saying yes to staying here and no to learning from other people who are in bigger areas, it's risky. Both things are. It's risky to move because then you may go broke. You may end up homeless. You may not even find the mentor that you thought you would find. But high risk, high reward, you may get all those things. But then it's risky to stay here.
Yeah.
It's a perceived safety to stay here because it's smaller. Oh, I'm the best in the area. But it's risky because there's so much potential that you're leaving on the table. If you want to become the greatest you can possibly be, you'll have to take the risk. You'll have to find a bigger pond and become the bigger fish.
One of the most painful part in our creative journeys when we see our friends that we grew up with, but they took the risk, and it's like, oh my gosh, they can do it. So why shouldn't I?
Right.
Why couldn't I not? Why should I tell myself that I can do it when clearly the people you surround yourself
It's
with?
possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you feel like you're still waiting on, other than the fact that we have to get this certain tangible things in order, getting paid? We're not gonna die. We're not gonna put ourselves at the risk of just. Actually, I'm just gonna go back to die. What will be the thing that will push you to actually go for it? Because all we can think of is the scenarios that we imagine in our head, but the reality is that we also have to make that happen. So what is the opportunity that you're waiting for that will push you to say, you know what? Hell yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll do it.
See, I'm like torn because the logical side of my brain is like,
Yeah.
oh, it's easy. Just move. But then on the same side, it's like, whoa, we're not going to make that rash of a decision.
Okay.
Like, part of me wants to wait for a door to open, so to speak. But what if that never happens? What if you have to be the one to go find the door and open it yourself? Like, there's a certain point where you just have to take the initiative, take the risk, and go do it. And maybe it'll fail, or maybe it'll go super well, and you just don't know. But by waiting, you're taking a risk too.
But what about what your parents did with their business? Because I'm sure they've had so many sacrifices and risks that they took, but clearly by seeing what they've done, you can model your business after them.
Which I think I'm pretty closely modeling it.
Yeah.
The thing is, the thing we share is that we're entrepreneurial. However, we're in very different industries. The entire business model looks different. They're in the art world. 30A is a huge art community.
Right.
So they can do very well there. 30A is not a huge digital creatives area.
That is true.
We're not a filmmaking hub. Now we may start growing into that, and I've seen exponential growth even recently, like with the Distillery 98 thing and PSA. Small shout out. But I don't think we're quite there yet.
And is that a risk that we're willing to wait or take to wait?
Well, we can wait, but who's going to be the change? Maybe that has to be you.
Whoa. I think it's within all of us.
Right.
It's not one person. But it's up to each and every one of us to stand up and actually decide to make that change.
Well, a dangerous thing that I also never want to be unaware of is groupthink.
A what?
Groupthink?
Group think?
So whenever, say like we've got 10 people around this table.
Yes.
We're all just, oh yeah, I agree with you, 100%.
Yeah.
We're all just yes men at that point.
Agreed.
So we're all sharing the same mid ideas. I want to break out of that and hear from different people who are in different fields and have just gotten more industry experience. Because it's easy for us to say like, oh yeah, we're all great at what we do, which we are. I'm not saying that we aren't, but I want to hear from people that are in LA, that are in Atlanta, in New York. I want to see like, okay, this is the very realistic logistics of what it looks like to be a professional creative.
And then here, it's like there's comfort. There's this sense of comfort. It's like...
It's a very slow pace.
Yeah. But the thing is, okay, the logical side, I would imagine the logical side of your brain would also look at what's currently happening in the industry. Like in LA, ATL... From in the industry that I work in, it's like there's a lot of things going on with the film industry. There's layoffs. There's a massive slow amount of work happening. You know, companies are dropping every employees left and right. That's the logical side. But the emotional side is like, okay, sure, but that could change. What if I just go and take the risk? Can you describe the exact scenario from the photography perspective?
So I just want to learn from people that know way more than I do. Like I said, I'm big on mentorship. So if I can do that, it's not that I want to go find an identity with a certain group of people.
Yeah.
I just want to learn from people. And then if I end up living here, then I have something more to offer of value. It's almost like I would view moving away and learning these things as like my alternative to a college degree. So I'm going to go move away for 2 years, learn as much as I can so that I can come back here and offer a ton of value.
How did it influence all of these elements that we face as creative as we get older? How do you make sure that your personal side of you, like outside of work, what are you doing to make sure that your personal side is also the type of person that you want to be?
Can you elaborate just a little bit?
Self-growth, I want to be better at emotional intelligence. I want to be able to learn how to communicate. Because beyond just work, we still have to learn how relationships, they're very complicated. But I want to learn how to make sure that every aspect of relationship, I know a lot more so that I can know how to handle people in relationships, family, all of that stuff. That's what I mean.
So you don't want to just be consumed by work, is what you're saying?
Yes. But
so how do you make sure you're living a healthy, fulfilling life outside of just what you do as your trade?
Yeah.
Well, I think, honestly, a lot of that comes down to, like, your worldview, the things that you believe in. Because where are you pulling these big truths from?
That's also our parents, too.
Right.
Well,
but then they were faced with the same question of, like, okay, what standard are we going to pull from when we're raising up children? So, like, where does the buck stop? Like, how many generations do you want to go back?
I don't know, because sometimes there will be people that will break beyond where, sure, they will get all the knowledge from other people, what they've learned from their parents, but there will be people that will make the opportunity to discover that for themselves. And that's also taking risks to not know what direction it is that they're going, but they know that they have this sense of curiosity that they have to discover in order to discover a part of themselves that where if they go after this risk, they'll know that they'll be able to discover that. Whereas if you stay comfortable in an area like this, we will never ever discover that.
Yeah. I mean, comfort is a killer.
Hi guys, Kino here. Just wanted to take a second to say thank you so much to each and every single one of you that has been with me on this journey for Hidden Record and just sharing all these stories of all of the creatives that have appeared on the show. If you enjoy deep conversations like this, make sure to hit like and subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on a podcast platform like Spotify, make sure you follow that so you won't be out of the loop for every month because I try to drop at least 2 episodes. So grab your popcorn and soda and let's get back to our conversation. The thing when we were talking about staying in this town, do you feel like you're also this sense of wanting to be better, wanting to be more, and wanting to get out? Are we also using that? Is that also blinding us from what's in front of us too?
So you're not living in the present moment, you're always thinking about the future?
Yes, but at the cost of thinking about the future all the time, you're also missing what's in front of you in the present.
Right.
What are you doing about that?
Dang, that's a good question. I mean, it's fair, because you don't want to be blindsided by always living in the future.
Yeah.
Nor do you want to live in the past.
Yeah.
So how do you balance all these things?
Yeah. Welcome to therapy, guys.
I mean, I think it's important to always reflect on your life too. Like to be honest with yourself and ask other trustworthy people what they think about where you are. So back to the mentor thing. That's someone who can objectively say, like, here's where I see you're doing great. Here's what needs improvement. This is what just needs to stop entirely. So they can give you that advice. But that's only from, like, your work point of view. So then if you need to grow, say, like, emotionally or spiritually, that's where you would have, like, say, a pastor who can pour into you. So you're growing in other areas too.
With your parents, I think that they already provided the business side of, there's multiple areas where they teach us, but you have outside influences like the pastor from Destiny Worship Center Now, with the creative side, have you been able to find that mentor for you, or is it still
Yeah.
something you're searching for in this area? Not in ATL or Los Angeles, but in this area, have you been able to find someone that fits your criteria of someone that's classified as a mentor for you?
So let's rewind a little bit to 2020, the height of COVID, when we all hated our lives.
Yeah.
A distant memory.
Yeah.
But in 2020, I met someone named David Molnar.
We love you, bro.
He was a commercial photographer based out of Nashville.
Okay.
He moved down here back in either late 2019, early 2020, sometime around then. We got connected pretty early on through my dad because they would surf together. Now, all that to say, I became his studio assistant.
Okay.
And then sort of like an associate videographer, creative director, blah, blah, blah. All
Right.
the things. But he became like a mentor for photography because that was the first like true professional that I had ever met outside of like a wedding photographer. But I already knew that I didn't want to shoot weddings. Like I wanted to do the big Hollywood set type stuff. But he was the closest thing to that. So once I started learning from him, that was the first time I ever saw someone use like off-camera flash too. So suddenly and I had full access to a studio, which was huge. So I could use that equipment, I could use the space, I could bring models and friends there to also shoot, which that's a whole different thing. It's like the synergy that happens on set when you have other creatives with you. I think you can exponentially create something better.
Agreed.
But with that being said, having access to all those things, I'm very grateful for it because I think that was also the first time I had realized I can make a career out of this. So photography, up until this point, was just a hobby. It's like, oh, this is an expensive hobby, but it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, wait, I can actually do something and get paid for something that I enjoy. It was a whole paradigm shift.
Yeah.
So that's when I started kind of just toying with the idea of like, what would it look like to own a photography business or a creative agency, anything. But learning from him was probably the most pivotal thing that happened to me.
Now take all of that experience. As you become the person that you want to be as a photographer, as you build up your skills, how would you like your mentorship style to look like when you Mr. Miyagi, basically. Basically, Mr. Miyagi.
Okay.
Everybody has their own mentorship style. Now, for you, it might be hard to think about. I don't know, because we're still like discovering. We're at the stage where we're still discovering things that we don't know about. But I think when you get to that point, how would you want your mentorship style to look like when you're starting to teach people that look
Oh, you're
up
saying
to
when
you?
I start teaching people?
Yes. What is the mentorship style that you want to look like?
So it's like a full circle moment.
Yes.
Well, I would probably go back to how would I want to be treated if the
Okay.
roles were reversed. So if I was the mentee, what I enjoy doing, because I'm a very observant person.
Right.
Like I'm looking at like the nonverbals. I'm looking at how people interact with other people, the little things that they do, their MO. All
Yeah.
So like I'm watching from the sidelines. And then if I have a question, I would just ask like, hey, why did you do that specific thing right there to get that outcome? So that's how I would prefer to learn things.
Okay.
Now I know everyone has a different style of learning. Some people just like rapid fire asking a bunch of questions. I would get annoyed by that.
Here we are. We're asking him a lot of questions.
You got to grow somehow, and there's usually pain with growth.
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, you're comfortable. Like if someone had approached me like, oh, could you mentor me? There has to be give and take involved. I want to first see you take an initiative that proves to me like, oh, you're not bullshitting me. Like you actually want to take this seriously. Because otherwise, I'm giving away so much free value. Because what I know now, what looks simple, took thousands of hours of learning, of trial and error, from averaging all these different things that I've seen from different sources to get to where I am now. It's not like I have just this little pamphlet playbook of how to be a successful photographer. So if I'm going to give you like all of my insider secrets, I at least want to see, and it's not that I'm gatekeeping, but I want to see that you're taking it seriously, because otherwise I'm just getting taken advantage of.
I mean, it's also not to say that in this community, it just so happens that it's everywhere. The gatekeeping part.
Right.
The hardest part about that as a mentor, I would imagine, is you would have this paradigm shift as a leader and as a mentor where you have to realize that when you're good at something, but it takes another mindset shift to realize that the people that you're teaching will eventually succeed you. And that's a hard, emotional. How would you feel when people start to become way better than you, even though you've strived in your entire life? Why is this person in Dubai so much better than I am? Why is this person in Africa doing better than I am? How are you?
Well, I think we would get offended like that because it's not even that we trained them, because you should feel honored that they're ahead of you, but it's pointing out your weaknesses, and nobody likes having their weaknesses pointed out so bluntly.
Yeah.
But I think that you can look at your weaknesses. Like, why do you hate that so much? Well, it's probably because you need to grow in that area. If you're offended by it, I mean, really look at it for what it's worth.
And I mean, that still takes a lot to. That's why I'm saying earlier, when we're so consumed by the work, we have to remind ourselves not to leave our personal life behind.
Right.
If you work with someone who's a professional and you want to learn from them, but they're assholes, is that someone you would want to look up to?
No.
See, it's like
well, I had that experience in the live production field too.
Oh man. Were there a lot of assholes in that area? I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Well, I shouldn't say a lot.
Let me rephrase.
We've all had bad bosses before.
Yes.
Which you can learn from them, but it makes it a much more painful process when it doesn't need to be. And then it sort of puts like a distance between you guys.
When you open up with NASCO Photo, where is that company going to go? Do you eventually envision yourself to have a team?
I think so. I purposely, which designing that entire brand took forever.
Oh.
It took about a month, and I did it all myself. Like, I learned, I don't say that in like a pretentious way, but like I took the time to learn Adobe Illustrator because I wanted to design it.
Yeah.
But also even just choosing a name for a company, because that's going to hold so much weight. It represents you and your entire company, everything it stands for, everything you offer. So you want it to be flexible for the future. So why I finally landed on NASCO is, one, it's tied to my name because I want it to be, I'm the one working on set. You're hiring me because I'm going to give you a unique look at something. And then the CO, and that acronym is just creative organization. And then I tacked on photo at the end, which maybe I'm giving away too much information now, but eventually the thought was it could be NASCO Photo, NASCO Lighting Design, NASCO Video, anything, any avenue that I decide to go down. It could be subsidiaries of NASCO. So really NASCO Photo is just the first iteration of whatever I end up making it. It could eventually become NASCO Media if I have a full media agency. I don't know yet.
I think it's in the cards.
It's possible, but start small and become very good at what you do before you start offering a bunch of things.
That is so true. Guys, that was a gem of knowledge. It's so simple but so effective. Well, the reason why I was asking if you do end up having a team, what the leader that you want to be, what is that kind of leader? What does that leader look like? The leader that you want to be, because that as a leader, you're also mentoring the people that are working for you. You have bad bosses.
Well, that's part of why I wanted to be self-employed, is because I want to be the one calling the shot. There's been a number of leaders or bosses I've had in my life where I disagree with their style. Maybe I don't think that they did something the best way that they could have. Maybe I felt like I was the smartest person in the room and I should have been making decisions. Maybe I felt like, oh, I'm actually listening to everyone in the room, not just what I want to do. So I feel like that would be more my leadership style.
Okay. But then at the same time, you want to avoid having a team of having yes mans. Would you want to have someone, at least one or two people that will be able to challenge the status quo?
So I think when you get into like a yes man situation, that tells me your leader's probably a little bit totalitarian. You don't want to cross them because there's going to be hell to pay for it.
Okay.
Or you're going to lose influence with them.
I guess that would require having a vetting process of the employee that you want. Who will be your ideal employee? Because
I don't know that I want employees per se. Maybe subcontractors.
But isn't that about a team though? Like
that would be a team.
Right.
I don't think that I want to be like a staffing agency.
Yes.
Like I don't want to have employees because I want people to also grow as individuals too.
Right.
Like if you want to build up your brand while also helping me with projects, that's great. Do it. I don't want you to feel like you're locked into something.
With that being said, when you have that figured out, what's the one work that you will eventually feel like, oh my gosh, I am so happy I made NASCO photo media, but what is the one project that will actually make you so proud of the reason why you started everything in the first place?
What is my dream project?
Yes, that will make you feel like everything was worth all the losses, the pain, the heartaches.
Good question. Very introspective one too. I think I feel like this kind of goes into like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? So like 5 years from now, or maybe shorter, I would like to be shooting large scale campaigns for brands.
Okay.
So when you're walking throughout the store and you see these blown up images,
Yeah.
lifestyle images, I want to be able to say like, I shot that. Or I directed that. Like I want to see my fingerprints on the project.
But the thing is, going back to what we said, we will take opportunities. What are you willing to give up to get that opportunity?
Well, I don't have much to lose right now. So what am I willing to give up? I mean, the second a door were to open, I would probably go through it.
I would say there is a bit of sacrifice that we would have to make. As we get bigger projects, we know that would require a lot more time of our time to work on it to become the best project it could be. But that's what we take, that opportunity to do that. But what we give up is the time that we could spend with our family, our friends. So how much are you willing to give up in order for you to get to that opportunity? Like, what are your non-negotiables?
If it compromises my values, I wouldn't do a project. Like there's certain brands that from the get-go I just wouldn't work with.
Okay.
Or if there's a certain message behind something, I wouldn't do it. Because there's always going to be other opportunities. I wouldn't want to compromise what I hold near and dear just to get that client on my client list.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, even when they come with a brand name, that's like, holy shit. I have Coca-Cola, but I don't like their drink. I'm not saying that your drink's terrible. Please don't sue me.
But that's just like that's a small personal preference.
Okay.
That's not something that would compromise like a value that I hold. For example, like if I like take certain fashion brands like Balenciaga.
Okay. Yes.
If they were to show like something defaming Christ, cross upside down, whatever, anything like that, promoting demonic activity, I wouldn't be on that project. I wouldn't be disrespectful. I would just be like,
It's not your forte.
Correct. Kindly, I don't think I'll be the best fit for this role. And then
Actually,
be done with it.
I would love to ask this, if you don't mind me asking. In your work, how much of your religious belief do you try to implement? Because as creative, we bring everything that we have grown to believe, what we're inspired by, what we're influenced by. We will see that in every work that we do.
Right.
So from your parents, from how, especially the fact that you got this lighting thing. You're still taking influence that in your work. But if you don't mind me asking, I would love to know how much are you implementing what we believe in, especially in Christianity. I don't know if you're Christianity or if you don't mind me asking. What are you doing to implement that into the work that you do that makes you feel like it's encompassing every parts of you, that makes you feel happy with the work that you do?
Very loaded, and my response will be equally as loaded. But,
Go for it! Dude, go for it. That's what we're here for.
Get ready.
Let's go.
So I'm never going to be on the nose with something.
Okay.
I'm never going to force something down someone's throat
Okay.
and be like, you're going to believe what I believe.
Yeah.
You don't have to. It's your choice. But what I will do is, okay, Roman Spatero, he's a photographer that I've been following for some time.
Okay.
And one of his projects he did several years ago, it wasn't, at first glance, you wouldn't even know that it was a Christian project.
Okay.
But when he gave a foreword to it, he was mentioning he wants to capture the essence of God in all of his images.
Okay.
And I think that's great. I think it's beautiful. So in a similar sense, when I'm creating work, and I think this goes back to why I want to portray things as natural, clean, as they are, because I think there's also beauty in that simplicity. So I want to portray things, I want to photograph things as they are in their natural beauty, the way that God would see them.
Everything's in God's image.
Right. So what I'm not going to do is basically promote something that's ungodly. And then in another sense, you may never see it point blank in my work, but in the experience of working with me on set. Like I said, NASCO, you're hiring me. So part of that is I'm not a super woke guy. And if you want that, that's okay. But you're going to be looking at a different photographer to work with. So in my case, I would be very selective and mindful if someone who is woke wants to work with me. I would kind of look over like, here's the project. Is this something I can get behind? What does my attitude look like on set? How would I interact with them? Is this an opportunity to be an encouragement, to be a light in their life? There's a lot of things I would be weighing to make sure that I'm still in good standing.
Seriously, I love that answer.
I know it's super convoluted.
No.
but
That was such a valuable answer because, dude, thank you. No, I'm serious. Thank you for sharing that insight from how you see the world. That's the most important thing is because, like you said, people are afraid to talk about their failures. But the other side of that is they're also afraid to be willing to be vulnerable and authentic because they're afraid that would either close off to a certain type of clients. They might not get that, this and this and that. But there's such a great value in being just courageous enough to say how you really are. And what you gave, Nathan, when you gave, be proud of that. And thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Oh my gosh.
Which I know that at this point in the world, it's very countercultural to even say that. Because it makes it sound like, oh, you're being offensive, you're not inclusive, etc. But I would disagree.
Agree. And I don't understand why people are they're wanting to just make everything so controversial.
Yeah.
It's like what you said.
Well, it's because that's what drives views. When you have when you have controversy, I mean, think about it. We all love watching drama stuff.
True.
We all gossip. Well, we shouldn't, but everyone gossips because we love controversy.
But
even think about like the major media outlets. That's all the news is. It's controversy. Because that's what gets engagement.
okay, I'm not well versed in the Bible, nor how should I say it? I've lost my way. Okay. But what I love about the conversation that you and I just had, even though I lost my way, I have a hard time finding my way back. I still find value in other people's perspective. That's why it means a lot when you share stuff like that. But I love what you said about the God's image thing. There's also beauty in the peace and the calmness and the work. And when you have all this chaotic noise in the world,
Right.
what is that one word that would encapsulate that specific feeling where it's all about peace and calmness in your work?
Honestly, I think it would go back to landscape photography, which is something that I don't do a ton of because I feel like I've just overshot what this area has to offer so much. But I think that's also why film photography has had a resurgence, is because people are so used to going a million miles an hour that they need something to slow down, stop overthinking, and just be present in a moment. And I think that's something that film allows for, because you're not fiddling with a camera. There's really not many. You have your aperture and your shutter speed and focus. That's what you have to worry about. So you just look through a viewfinder and capture and move on.
Oh man, but that just somehow dehumanizes.
It may turn out or it may not. You don't know.
Yeah, but that also thinking of it just dehumanizes, if that's the right word for it, that what's actually beautiful in front of you. Because have you ever had a shot where it was just too beautiful that you have to just look at it, even though you want to take a picture?
Well, you take a mental picture.
Huh?
You take a mental picture.
There's a value in that, but a lot of people just want to take photo just because they want to show it off.
Right.
I don't really like how. I don't know. It's just that kind of thing. It's so hard to balance between wanting to be present and wanting to capture every little thing in our lives. But there's always value in just letting things be. And like going back to what I said, where I'm not as well versed in the Bible, what I do appreciate about what the Bible says and the overall religion is, the beauty in everything. The beauty in the art, even in the people, even though they may be flawed in so many ways,
right?
There's beauty in that too.
Right.
You did say film photography is perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
Something like that. So,
and I think that's also part of why I enjoy portraiture so much. Like even in the campaigns, that's still just portraits.
Okay.
Now you're going to have more set decoration involved, but really you're capturing a person and their personality. And you're finding a way to communicate so many things in a still image. So like when you go to take a portrait of someone, that's why I think like you should always meet for coffee with whoever you're going to go shoot with. Because I think it's so critical. And even you'll see it, like there's a different comfort level on set. Like after you've been with someone, even if it's only 30 minutes, hear a little bit of their story, because then there's a trust built. Suddenly you have rapport with them. So they're going to trust you. Everyone's tensions are going to be a lot lower. And you can get a more honest reaction out of them.
I love that. Now, I love especially the honest. Everybody's so afraid to be honest. Who they are, what they say, there's always some filter.
Right.
Wait, to a certain extent, you should never say offensive things, but
there's a fine line.
Yes, there is a fine line. But guys, we're gonna go into the last round of questions. Please, Nathan, please drop your social links, bro. Go for it.
You can follow me on Instagram,
Yes.
Nathan_Saczyinski.
Yes.
Or you can check out my website at nascophoto.com.
Yes.
You can text me at, I'm not going to give that out.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0.
That's it.
Yes. You can, if you don't want to keep receiving messages from him, just spell STOP. Dude, yeah. But we're gonna, unfortunately, guys, I hope this episode has been impactful in some way, and that again is why you just heard it from him. That's the message that I want you guys to be able to walk away from, knowing that you have to be honest with yourself and being able to use that as a strength. I think that's what I learned from you today. I learned about being honest and just capturing everything. Not everything has to be so overcomplicated.
Right.
There's beauty and natural look, every single thing. Like even the Yeti looks beautiful. You could just take that and color grade it, increase the contrast. What am I talking about? Anyways, now the last few. I'm sorry, I go off on a tangent.
You really like the Yeti, don't you?
I actually.
Do you want me to give you a Yeti? Funny story, my dad actually painted a bunch of Yetis.
What?
He was commissioned to paint them, and they sold out the first day in Fort Lauderdale.
No way. Wait, but how did that opportunity even... That is so crazy.
I don't know.
All right, the last few questions I have this. The one where you talk about the image. What is the type of work that will get the exact same reaction from people the same way that I did when it comes to, one, getting the natural look, the understanding why you do things in a certain way, and also capturing the beautiful portraits of that? What is the one work that will get the exact result exact reaction from the people that you want to work with?
So I don't think it's even like this one project that I have in mind.
Okay.
Because my dream projects, they're going to fluctuate.
Of
Notice I
course.
didn't say like, I want to work with this brand 5 years from now. I
Right.
just said, I want to shoot a brand campaign. That
Okay.
could be anything.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that I want to be able to do is honestly and with excellence, not perfectly, but just with excellence,
Okay.
share someone's story. So if they have a wholesome story to tell, I want to be able to capture that in the best light possible to where they look at it and they're like, yes, this perfectly captured the essence.
Okay.
Because to me, that's the greatest compliment I can get for photos is, wow, you perfectly captured the essence of fill in the blank. Because then you're reliving something when you look at it. So like say, like I want to capture my brother's youth pastor in his element, teaching, imparting something to the next generation of
course.
adults. How can I do that in the best way possible? To where aesthetically it looks great. All the design principles are there, but it's honest. It's not a fake representation. It's not a false representation. But you can even see like personality in an image. And that takes a long time to develop.
What a wonderful answer. Good job. We will sign him up for the presidential candidate. Mr. Saczynski for 2025.
I don't think I'm old enough yet, but perfect.
The other question I have is this. What would you want your parents to say after having accomplished the goals that you have outlined for your company as NASCO? After having achieved all of those things, what would be some of the things that you want to hear from your parents when they look at what you do?
I think I want to do it earlier in life than they did. And I think that's a regret that they had, was waiting so late to actually start it. Because they're in their 30s when they launched the art gallery.
Okay.
And before that, I mean, it just kind of phased into doing art full time.
Okay.
So it started as like working at Home Depot, or even before that, working at a cable company,
Okay.
then Home Depot. Then he started a landscaping company, then started making art out of the garage. In 2012, they get a gallery. So you just drop off all the other clients. And suddenly it's like, oh, wow, I'm doing art full time now. And I think that's basically what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
So by being like my day job doing real estate content, technically I'm self-employed. I'm a contractor there. I'm not on staff. But until I'm doing my own thing full time, I don't know what age that's going to be. I'm 22 right now. I would hope by, let's say 25, I'll be fully self-employed, if not before then. Maybe that's a 2025 goal.
You know, I'm really proud of you for acknowledging that for yourself at 22 because, dude, Annika, you're awesome. Today, over lunch, I was trying to figure out how old I was because I completely forgot. And
You were trying to figure out how old you were?
yeah, I forgot how old I was.
How?
I don't, okay. She was like, wait, how old are you? And I go like,
Oh, no.
I think I'm 24. But she asked, and then she goes, wait, what year were you born? 1998. And then she goes, oh, you're going to be 26. I was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
I'm about to be 26. So I'm letting you know, there are so many people out there, especially the youth generation, where they're just going to go about life and just go coast. You know, I want to recognize that the fact that you recognize what you want to do at the age of 22. That is a blessing on its own.
Well, the other thing that I want to point out is like, just because I launched in February does not mean any of this is new. Like, this was a long time coming. Like, I had the first dream, so to speak, freshman or sophomore year of high school. And I think once you have your first job is when you really realize, oh, wow, you're building your own dream or you're building someone else's. And I think that's when it clicked, is like, I want to be the one in charge. Like, I want to steer my own ship. Because why would I want to spend my life building up someone else's dream?
A message that has been repeated multiple times.
But I think that's also something so nice about the community that we all work in as creatives, we're all building up our own thing while also helping each other. Something Kevin mentioned at PSA is that we all rise with the tide. And I think that's so true. Because we can all coexist, like we can all work on set together. And it doesn't mean that we're making one person better because it's a project where everyone's fingerprints are on the project.
I agree. Not that I'm being a yes man. I've been agreeing, but I'm not trying to be a yes man. It's just there are a lot of things that I love what you're saying. I will disagree at some point. I don't know when. But thank you. That's a great answer. But seriously though, it's like even if you said it's a long time coming for you with this company, it's just being able to take the courage, having the courage to just take the steps. That's at least you're already at 90% ahead of everybody around the whole world. People are too afraid to look at and be honest with themselves.
Right. Well, like the biggest fear I have is like I'm a perfectionist. So before I launched my company, I wanted everything to be perfect. Insider tip, it'll never be perfect. It's always being edified, or at least it should be. But I finally just reached a point where I'm like, it's good enough. So February 2nd, I think, is when I officially launched everything.
That's still...
And then immediately found issues that I had to go fix, and that's okay.
Yeah. And then... Okay. So many questions! We will have you in the next episode. Do you agree?
I think we should do a roundtable next.
Oh. You guys want a mukbang? I know you say you don't want to have food. Let us know in the comments. Mukbang or just a regular round table?
Diet Coke and popcorn.
Oh, yes.
Movie time.
What?
What?
What did you say? Diet popcorn?
No, Diet Coke and a popcorn.
Oh, for the audience.
No, for us.
So
That's the mukbang.
we're eating popcorn.
It's like you're at a movie.
Soda while
We work in production. Forget it.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Last few things.
Yes.
What would you say to yourself in looking forward? Because in the Oscars there was Matthew McConaughey. I don't know how do you say
McConaughey?
Dude, I've been saying McConaughey.
Oh no, it's hay.
I have speech impediment. I have hearing loss. That's my excuse. There was one speech that he did when he won the Academy Awards. He said, "There's this person that I'm always chasing after, and that's the future me, and I'm always chasing after that person." If I think I'm wording it right, not exactly verbatim, but he said, the person that I'm working so hard to go after is the future me." So taking that analogy, what is the one thing that you're working to strive? What are some of the things that you're working towards to become that future person that you will be happy with? Because that is a never-ending cycle.
So like, what is the best version of myself that I'm trying to become?
Yeah. What does that look like for you? Therapy 101.
I think that just means always walking uprightly.
Okay.
Which is more of a biblical term.
Go for it.
But it just means like, are you following the rules that God has laid out for humans to follow?
Okay.
Because if you are, then you're in accordance with his will. So that's something I'm always trying to keep in mind. And it gets tricky when you start doing business. Because there's a lot of times that you don't want to do that. And if I'm being honest, to get ahead in life, sometimes you do have to compromise those values. Which I'm not saying is good, nor do I condone it. But a lot of times, like the uber successful people you see, it's because they don't always follow that model.
And is that something you want to try maintain?
Yes, it's something that I'd like to maintain.
Okay.
So that I have a clear conscience. But the other thing is just always doing things with excellence. I think that's a given. And then making sure that I'm helping to edify people in the process.
I think that's one of your pillars that as a mentor, when you get to that point, I think that's a great foundation to stand out amongst other people.
Well, I never want to tell people just what they want to hear.
Okay.
Now, if what they want to hear aligns with what they need to hear and what's for their best good, then yeah, I'll say it. But not always do all three of those boxes get checked.
Damn. That's a good end off right there. All right. Fuck. There's so many things I wanted to ask, like your work. Oh my gosh. You know what? We're going to have you in the round table, okay? Roundtable. Agreed.
Okay.
2025.
If you want to ask more questions, feel free, because I know you're going to splice it up in post.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll scratch that. Sorry, guys. Spoilers. We were just joking. Okay. We'll give another 15. Then we got to let you go.
Okay.
Okay. We have adult lives to go back to. And the 15-minute counter starts now. As a person and as a creative, so you have those two things, okay? What advice would you give to those that follow the same model that you're going after? You try to make sure you have good conscience.
Right.
That's both personally and professionally.
Right.
Now do the same thing for those that don't follow that model too.
Okay. But are you saying just professionally speaking, what advice would I give those two types of people?
And personally.
Oh, both?
Yes.
Well, first I'll give like the why behind my what.
Go ahead.
And this goes for pretty much every facet of life.
Yes.
I'm looking at big picture.
Okay.
I can focus on small details, but it's because it's to achieve a big picture thing.
Okay.
So if you have the long run in mind, I mean, take religion, for example. We, at some point, have to start asking the very hard philosophical questions. What is the meaning of life? What happens after we die? Where are our ancestors? Why did so-and-so die as a child?
Yeah.
Why do all these bad things happen in the world? Like, at some point, we have to ask unless we just numb ourselves out and never ask it. But I'm like, I enjoy deep conversation. So I already have asked all these things. And when you start needing answers to those, you can get a dying hope from the world, or you can get a living hope that's offered through what I believe is the Christian faith.
And that's professionally or personally?
So that would be the preface.
Okay.
So all that to say, long run in mind. For example, like, at the end of the day, it's just burgers and fries. That's what one of my audio engineer friends says. Like, it's not that serious. It's just burgers and fries. So don't take things quite so seriously. But in terms of how that applies into my professional life, I mean, is what I'm doing in accordance with my values? Is this furthering a message that I think needs to be shared or should be shared? So that's how I'm choosing between different projects I do. Or like, is this something that I want to share online or no? Is this something I want to do to make money, or are there more wholesome ways to make money? For example, like, I could never work in a bar setting because I don't want to be in that type of environment. I don't think that that is something wholesome, and I don't want to make money from doing that.
So understanding your boundaries in both areas is such an important thing.
Right.
But then
I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It does.
Feel free to have follow-ups too.
No. It does. It's also given me a lot of different perspectives that I never even thought about thinking, because the one perspective that I've followed through my entire life is experience everything. Even if it's except drugs. Don't ever do drugs, guys. All right? The dare challenge.
They're going to do it now.
Huh?
They're going to do it now because don't push the red button.
No, it's like I've always thought the best way to get experience in life
is by doing.
Yes, but also experimenting something that where in society normally doesn't think it's a good thing to experience. So like the bar setting. Obviously, I'm never going back to the bar and club because when I was in a club in Orlando, I was taking photos, and there was I think there was a drunk guy. He threw a glass of water at my back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm never going back there. But getting that experience to know what everything else, what the world has to offer is also valuable. But
it is.
But how do you?
Because you can learn from bad experiences too.
So what's to say if you are already establishing boundaries, you're already closing off to those experiences that might have been a good thing to learn from?
Well, there's a difference between that and then spreading a message. So like in the work I'm doing, anytime like I post an image, I am subconsciously sharing a message that I back.
Yeah.
So like I'm not going to promote something that I disagree with. Like it could be as simple as I'm not going to photograph things that have cigarettes in them because why would I want to promote that?
It's not aligned with your beliefs.
Right. Now, I know some people that would do that, and they're fine with it. It's just not something that I would do. I'm not shaming them for it, but that's another thing where, like, it's not on the nose. It's a very subconscious thing that the average person wouldn't notice in my work.
Okay. Damn. I'm not gonna after this, dude, I'm going through your Instagram and be like, okay. Dude, literally take apart your work and say, oh, that makes so much sense.
Well, even like into like you can get as deep into like set etiquette, even like the experience of shooting. Another, I guess you could say a compliment that I got.
Yeah.
So I was working with someone who was getting digitals done.
Yeah.
So the images that you would send to your agent if you want to get into modeling. Now, part of that, like if you're going to be doing swimwear stuff,
Okay.
they want to see you in like a bathing suit.
Okay.
So like close to naked, but not fully naked.
Okay.
You're still, the way you act is pivotal. And after the shoot, like, for example, like me and Justin were there. So I was photographing and he was producing and directing. I'm not going to put myself in a situation that could even look bad. So like if it was just me and her doing photos, it could be misconstrued if that word got out. So afterward, she was just thinking like, oh my gosh, the last photographer we had made me feel so uncomfortable. He was so weird. But she was like, this is just like such a breath of fresh air. Like this was so nice. This was comfortable. Blah, blah, blah. I want to work together again. That kind of thing. So it's like, okay, great. I would love to emulate that same level of like we're all comfortable on set. Because there's some photographers that are truly invasive. Like they're gonna make you feel uncomfortable. Like I'm always trying to make sure, what's it called? Putting your subject at ease. And that's how you can get genuine, tensionless photos.
The thing about that though is those photographers may have been raised with wrong,
Right.
like choice of mentors they look up to, the habits that they picked up from the type of people that they're around with. It all shows up in the work.
Right.
Guys, don't be a creep. If you want, guys, if you're a model, watch Summer Eisenman's episode. She gives you a lot of tips on how to make sure you're secure. But that's a good thing. Like keeping everyone calm and just comfortable.
Right.
Is such an important thing. All right, lightning round.
Lightning round.
Lightning round. Okay. Throughout your career, especially during your times of doubt or challenge, what has kept you focused on your vision of capturing authenticity and storytelling in your photography? And is there a particular project or moment that reinforced your commitment to that approach?
Like I said in the very beginning of the podcast, when you see how happy it makes people when they can see high quality images, it's like they see themselves in a new light. And it sort of breaks down any pre-existing insecurities that they had.
Good question. Good answer.
Good question, too.
Working on projects like the music video that you did with Logan Poacher must have presented a unique challenges. Can you share a story about a time during this project or another where things did not go as planned and how you handled that situation? Because, guys, he's a photographer, but this one, you filmed the music video.
Yes. Well, it was with all of his creative direction, too.
Okay.
So I may have helped with the filming of it, but it was really his baby.
Okay.
And I did the photography side of it, too. So this was kind of like in conjunction with the video. So honestly, there really weren't challenges. I'm sorry.
No, I think it was.
But also, Logan and I have like such a. This is gonna sound so weird, but like a special relationship. Like he is the person that I've just always photographed with. Like he's known me since I was like 13, I think, and has seen me grow up, and I've seen him grow up. And what's funny, if you ask him, I was one of the few people that actually like gave him a paradigm shift to start doing music.
Oh.
Because I had asked him, like, well, he used to also work at Destiny with me.
Okay.
And he was there one day. I'm trying to think of exactly how this. He needs to share this because I'm trying to share it from my point of view. But he was like, he said something to the effect of, man, I really just want to do music. And I had said something like, but aren't you already doing that? And And he was like, oh, wait, I guess I am. Anyway, we've just always been, like, there's always synergy when we work together. So anytime I have, like, a new idea that I want to test out, I usually am like, hey, do you want to go shoot? And it's always a yes. And he'll go along with it.
Have you seen the animated movie Brother Bear?
Mm-mm.
Oh, my God. Dude. It's okay. It describes that relationship. The brother bear. It's like they're looking after each other, but they're always there. And you have to watch the movie, dude.
All right, I'll watch it.
Okay, good answer to that one. Okay, your work has been featured in prestigious publications like Harper's Bazaar and at Emerald Coast Magazine. How did these features come about, and what impact did they have on your career? And did they open up any new opportunities or present any new challenges? Go.
Funny you mentioned Emerald Coast Magazine. So their publisher is Roland Publishing.
Oh, okay.
The first time I had work that was really published like that was during my very dark season when I lived in Tallahassee. So, flashback, I mentioned I went to their architecture program last year. That was probably the lowest point of my life. I absolutely hated life at that time. But it was also the very first time that I had gotten hired by a magazine to go shoot for them and get paid for it.
Oh, how did that make you feel in that dark time?
I feel like that, in a sense, was like the light at the end of the tunnel. Like it took me getting to that terrible place to get that first thing.
And was that also something similar to a paradigm shift? As in,
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm not even going to tell you how much I got paid for it because it was not much. But it was just the sentiment of everything. The fact that a magazine had reached out that, oh, we want you to shoot for this. And I had to BS it all on set. When I showed up, I had to pretend like I had everything together and I knew what was going on. And I could lead a photo shoot.
But that's such a hard thing to do when. Okay. With the dark side, remember when we were on
It was like the silver lining of my time in Tallahassee.
You remember when I asked you that? All of us in the boat. That's what I wanted to know to get to know.
Ask what?
What were your darkest moments or secrets? Remember that? Hey Justin, if you remember this, let me know what that is. He already gave me his. It's your turn now.
Nobody watching this knows what we're talking, except for Justin and Amanda.
I do want to know. Okay, I've had dark moments in my life. The one that I had that was so close to the darkest time in my life was when I went to SCAD.
See, it's always when we go off to college. Maybe that's the common thread. Don't go to college.
No, I think maybe Monster Inc. University will be a different one. It's all about scares and laughter. Maybe
I wish I could go to Monsters University.
be friends with Mike Kusowski. But
oh my gosh.
I went to SCAD, and it was at the point where I was like getting. I was on the top of my own shit. I felt like hot shit.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to SCAD to school these douches. Sorry, I can do this.
And I would have thought that you could too.
But I didn't. And I saw just how much people were so much better.
Yeah.
And the classes I was taking is like, I went to each and every class. What the fuck is this? I'm so bad. Woe is me. To a point where it actually drove me to a point where I almost wanted to,
Unalive. Yeah.
And guys, this is what I'm talking about. Be honest with yourself in your past. And that was the hardest time that I had in my life. And it never stopped. It went from SCAD, and then I went to Nashville, met even more better people than I was.
Wow.
And also bad clients. I'm never going to name you guys. But
Please do.
It's those scenarios that it made it even harder to see the light at the light at the end of the tunnel.
I got you.
And it also made me want to change my career. I actually wanted to web design. I thought I was going to do it, but then now I'm back in this field.
I mean, I thought I would go into architecture, and before I even thought about photography, I was thinking like, well, should I just switch to something that's like a safer major?
Yes.
Because like I'm already here.
Yeah.
What if I just go into IT?
Yeah.
That's a guaranteed route, and it's similar to what I did with lighting design.
And
But here we are.
it's and the reason why I bring up all of this is that acknowledging that the dark times, how did you feel like at that moment, because it's really important as a creative to acknowledge that the dark times is also what shapes us and how we tell our stories through the work that
does.
we do. So how did you
Well, it's in
navigate
like
that?
our toughest times that we grow the most.
Agree. Okay. All right, I'll just pretend for the sake of not being agree. I disagree. But
Oh, yes, please tell me why.
but how did you make it so that when you look back in that dark time now that you appreciate it even more now that it happened?
I think had I not gone through that time that was just atrocious, if I'm being honest, that I may have always stayed in like stasis. I don't think I would have ever actually had that catalyst that
Okay.
like really propels you to be better, to do things. Because what's funny is like take Justin for example. We had only met I think once prior to any of this back in 2021 or 2022. I mentioned I worked at that studio. So we happened to be shooting at that studio.
Okay.
And he was a last minute addition.
Okay.
I didn't even know he would be there. After that, didn't talk to him for several years. He would even try to like repetitively call me and text me like, who's this guy calling me?
Yeah.
I would always decline it. And then when I was in Tallahassee, he called again. I'm like, whatever, what else? What do I have to lose? So I answered it. Long story short, I think like a month later is when he hosted the event at Megan's studio. And that was another thing that like propelled me forward. So you never know who you're going to meet.
No, I'm really happy that you're able to come out that place. That's the other thing that we don't talk about. Because people want to be successful and they feel somewhat of a shame in hiding up the past that truly made us who we are.
Right.
And
Well, you find out who you are during the tough times too.
disagree. I'm playing on that one, but and when you discovered that, was it easier for you to leave your older self behind and realize that once you leave that version of you, are you still holding on to that person? Like, do you carry it with you as you grow up in life? Because for me, I try to remember the bad times to remind myself that was the lowest I've been. Now I know if I can go that low, I know I can go as high as possible. It makes everything that came after, every little thing becomes easier to handle. It makes it easier to climb your Mount Everest.
Right.
And that's, for me, reminding myself of where I was at. It makes it easier. So for you, do you still carry that person that you used to be to help you get through, or at least remind yourself that whatever happens after, it will not be compared anywhere close to that?
So the person I was like living in Tallahassee,
In your darkest time, do you carry that
I
person with you as you reach newer levels of success?
well, there was a lot of shame attached to it as well.
Okay.
Because my decision to go there almost felt more like, I don't want to say my hand was forced into it, but you have a lot of external voices saying like, this is what you ought to do. Why aren't you doing this? You're kind of just going in circles. Something's got to change.
Yeah.
Which isn't entirely wrong because it did feel like I was going in circles and nothing was happening. But it wasn't until I went there and like got humbled real quick that I realized, okay, this is what I actually need to change in my life to see growth happen. So do I think back often to it? Hard to say. I guess no, not necessarily. Because I don't like to meditate that much on the past because it can quickly turn into spiraling.
The past is also, when we look at it, I actually kind of disagree on that. There we go. I kind of disagree on that. Mainly because when we look at our past, we also find the answers of where we got to be in the present. When we understand our past,
Right.
it also informs the future
Yes.
that we want to forge. And whereas if we just don't acknowledge it, the future might be a little bit harder to have a sense of direction without having some form of reference, some point of reference.
Right.
And that lives in the past. That's how I would say if having that kind of past, your history has some value. And
well, I don't like to exclusively look at how did I feel in the bad times.
Okay.
Like I was also weighing, why did I truly feel fulfilled or happy in the times that I did?
Okay.
So it's not just about that time in Tallahassee. It's about all the time before that I was looking at too. Like, okay, you've got all these different things that I did, from Destiny to ECTC to doing little shoots like with Logan.
Yeah.
What's the common thread between all those? So it's not just the bad times, but why are the good times good? So that's what I was looking at. And then I finally realized, oh, it's because I already know what I actually want to do. I was just suppressing it because I guess people pleasing. I was trying to do what I thought people wanted me to do, which was to go get a degree that would lead to a steady desk job, like office space.
But that's not that's not where we're meant to be. There's something
At least not for me.
No, I'm saying the careers that we've chosen, we're not meant to be in that space. It's not to say that those spaces, it may be good for other people, but acknowledging that you have something that you want to offer the world, it just further confirms that we're meant to, one, you share your message that you see through God, because everything that we do, I think in the Bible it also says,
well, yeah, you're supposed to use your gifts.
Yeah.
And by not doing that, you're sinning.
I'm sinning already. I'm kidding. But no, I agree. Again, why do you have to make everything so agreeable? It's just, all my entire family are all doctors. And for the longest time, dude, I felt so burdened with, it was like a self-inflicted wound. Okay, if I ask you this, from an objective standpoint, who's more valuable? A videographer that makes a video or a doctor that saves lives?
Well, on paper, it would sound like a doctor. But also, if you were to ask it on like a deeper level, just like the trend right now, you could argue that a videographer is just as important because you have the potential to communicate a very profound message that billions of people could see.
But I didn't understand that. I wasn't able to see that, dude. And I felt so pressured to, okay, I'll just follow the doctor footsteps because it'll make them happy.
Right.
And it's literally in our family line. It's our line of work. But I just didn't want to do it. And I felt like I was influenced by people pleasing, specifically my parents. And having the courage it took so long to have that paradigm shift to finally realize that I don't have to do it. And the first thing was my parents told me, you don't have to do it. It was so simple, but it was enough to change, or at least start to create the change in how I burden myself with their legacy and versus the legacy that I want to build.
Right.
And so for you, what does that legacy look like when once you achieve everything? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind and the message that you want to give to the people that will eventually be inspired by the work that you did or do?
Well, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. That's the saying, right?
Yes.
So more than that, physically, what am I leaving behind? Photos, digital files, maybe a couple negatives. But I think it's the intangible things that you leave behind that will be much more meaningful. So behind every picture, if there's a story behind it and people could be like, oh, I remember when we took that. It was such a great time. They can give you the full story of what led up to it. It kind of reminds me of like Sean Murphy's work. So he has such a distinct look to all of his images, which if you ever get to meet him, he's one of the most interesting people I've ever met. He's also crazy. And his life story is pretty cool too.
He did the sword with Justin. Do you remember the sword?
Which
he's awesome.
I took that photo. I feel like you should throw that one up too.
But go on.
Which Justin hates that entire, but beside the point.
We still love you, Justin. We still love you, Sean. But go on.
But all that to say, like with his photography, what he's leaving behind, it's not about the images. It's about the unique stories and how many stories he has to share. Think about like when you're bored, do you resort to just scrolling through your camera roll? Do you ever do that?
Yes.
That's one of my favorite things to do, is because I know like every time I look at those images, it's bringing back all the memories. Even like you can kind of smell, like you remember everything that was happening in that moment that it was taken. Which video just takes that to a whole nother level. But I don't do video yet. Or maybe I do.
You never know.
But anyway, I mean, that's what I want to leave behind, is I want people to be able to share the good times that led to those photos. Having the good work is one thing. I think anyone is capable of making good quality work, but making meaningful work is something that takes years of development. And honestly, I think it's more about who you are as a person and how you can interact with those people before you ever take the picture.
That's such a beautiful message, dude. I'm serious.
Right. Well, it's not about the picture. That's what I would say.
No, I'm saying the whole answer. That's such a beautiful answer. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional a little bit. No, I'm actually getting a little bit emotional.
Oh my gosh. Sorry.
No, I'm getting the exact same feeling that I got when we were at the AJ Blair's.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe it's a paradigm shift.
A growth moment.
God damn it.
Do
Okay.
you need a tissue?
Huh?
Do you need a tissue?
No.
Okay.
Somebody's cutting up onions here.
Oh.
Somebody's cutting up the onions.
Oh my God.
All right. What are the last words that you would like to give that you never got that I never got to give you the opportunity to say? What are some of the last words you want to say to the audience?
I mean, we covered a lot. The biggest thing is everyone has a story to share, and I think that we're all obligated to share that story too. So by whatever means that looks like, if that's photos, videos, painting, even like lighting design, because that's what before I even got into photography, I saw how the dynamics and the colors, everything that goes into designing a show or a performance or a church service, whatever it may be, the way it can move people in such a profound way to where like, okay, I said like after a photo shoot, when I show the client, oh my gosh, I love this. In a similar sense, after a performance that I designed for, and I hear people talking as they exit, oh my gosh, that was so cool. Did you like that moment where blah, blah, blah? It's like, wow, I know that I created that.
I think that's also a value that each and every one of us has a capability to give.
Right.
It just so happens that yours has its own unique identity.
I'm
to
just
it.
using light to do it.
Yeah.
That's like my medium of choice. But everyone has their own thing that they do. So I just encourage you to find whatever it is, because we're all creatives at the end of the day. Like that's another biblical principle. It's like we were all made to create things.
the same way God did.
Yes.
And actually, we'll bring up another biblical reference. So you say you just create the light. God, on the first day of earth, I think okay, I might be wrong. Again, I did say I was not about first, but did he bring light first? I can't remember.
You can verify it.
Just verify for me. God brought light.
Well, now I think, but now I'm questioning it all because you're questioning it.
No, I'm not. Hold on.
What day was light?
What day?
No.
God.
Maybe it was the third day. Oh gosh, you're gonna have to cut this part out because I'm gonna look like a complete.
First day.
It was the first day?
Yeah, first day light was created. Second day sky was created. Third day dry land, seas.
Okay, so yeah, trust your gut. Always go. We're good.
We're good. But the reason why I bring that up is you actually said something. You said, yeah, just control the light, but you hear all these people, I love all this. But I think you're also carrying this biblical message that was first spoken.
Well, God is light.
Yes, but wait. When he said he brought light in the world, what you're also doing is you're bringing light in their world to see the beauty and not only the portraits, but also the work that you're contracted out for the right clients.
Right.
That's what you're doing. You're bringing light in the way you shape your work, everything you do. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, huh?
Everything I do, it surrounds around light.
Yes. What is darkness?
That's the common thread.
You know what? That is actually a great message. From all the dark times to everything that you've done up to this point, you're carrying the light for yourself, and I feel like the reason why you're so like you want to offer so much is because you have so much light to give, and you want to light everyone's world where everything's constantly under darkness. I think that's a beautiful thing that one of the things that you will be able to leave behind your legacy.
Right.
You're always bringing light.
But a lot of times people don't like to be exposed because it shows their insecurities.
But with that, I kind of disagree in a sense that we need to expose our insecurities to become the better version of ourselves.
Right. I agree.
Are we being honest if we're always hiding the shadows?
No.
We're only going to be honest once we embrace both light and the shadow. Like the yin yang. Oh, actually, like here, yin yang, guys. The message here actually under.
That's funny you mentioned highlight and shadow because that's like the quintessence of lighting design is working with highlight and shadow.
Okay.
And the same goes for like artwork. You were talking about you like Rembrandt lighting.
Yeah.
It's because of contrast ratios
Yes.
between highlight and shadow. But we don't need to get into that.
We will get into that at the round table. Okay. But you are the light of your own world, but you are also the darkness in your internal world. I have no idea what I'm saying, but I hope that makes sense.
So deep.
I will say one thing. There's a message here. Do you see it?
No, I'm very blind.
No, you hear it? You see
What?
that?
No.
No, you see the symbols though.
Oh, okay, sure.
And this one says, "Save journey, turn your disasters into blessings." I just bought this from Amazon. But that message resonated. But anyways, thank you guys. Oh, anything else you wanted to say?
No, that was it. Just find whatever it is that you're supposed to share or find whatever it is that you're supposed to create and put it out in the world.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Nathan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
And thank you for sharing your honest yourself. What did I say? Honest yourself? Honest self.
And it's strong. And it's strong.
And it's strong. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you are looking for more content like this, just hit like and subscribe. We will have even more wonderful guests. But the most important thing is focus on bettering yourself every single day and focus on creating light, not only in yourself, but also with other people that you are working with and also around with. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. And that'll be it. Cut! And that's a wrap for today's episode on Hidden Record. Thank you so much for sticking with us, and I do hope that today's episode was insightful and also it gave you some kind of fresh perspective in your creative journey. If you're listening on Spotify or any other podcast platform, a quick review is definitely going to help. It helps other people find us. And for those that are watching on YouTube, make sure you drop a comment down below or a question because I would love to see what your thoughts are. If you have any takeaways, advice, insights, anything of the sort, I'd love to see what you guys have. And most importantly, I hope you guys can take away a lot from these conversations, especially if you have hearing loss or disabilities, because I want you to know that you are not limited by your condition and that you are more than just that. Thank you so much for watching. Stay inspired, and I'll see you all in the next episode.